Let's try to jump into a little bit about what we're going to do today. It's not going to be a blockchain 101, but it's going to show you some certain values that that blockchain is providing to different businesses, and that's the discussion today: how blockchain networks create innovation and drive the bottom line, and that's definitely something that we're interested in specifically focusing on. Just a brief plug on Envision Blockchain. We are a boutique full service consulting firm in the IT space, of course, with a very specific focus on blockchain technology. And we, of course, run into a lot of other emerging technologies such as IoT and AI. And generally speaking, our core strength is helping organizations at any level and state of their understanding and maturity with respect to blockchain technology, and help them through a series of either learning or discovery, all the way through pilot and production environment deployments. Feel free, you can always visit our website. We have an array of different programs from free assessments, all the way through use case discussions and roundtable events. We do monthly CIEs, which are our customer immersion experiences. And we also host an array of those services and events actually in the Azure Marketplace. So you'll be able to find that on our website as well. So with that in mind, let's kind of move into a blockchain demo. And just wanted to offer you guys just a brief intro with respect to how we can start taking a look at how we begin structuring a proof of concept, for example. And to further understand cross-functionality and the true business value that blockchain is actually providing to the world today, we have to first recognize here in this specific demo, the 7 personas, or we can even consider them different companies, if you will, that we're going to be discussing in the coming slide, and their specific roles and different state changes in the blockchain smart contract. So if you haven't been to any of our webinars beforehand and you are interested in taking a look or having a deeper understanding with respect to a blockchain 101 and understanding different terminology, I apologize. Feel free to visit our website again. We have several webinars previously that definitely take you through that experience of a blockchain 101. Here we're taking a look at the demo persona roles. You'll notice that we have a shipper, we have an origin customs agent, we have a freight carrier, a destination customs agent, a destination customs broker, a drayage agent, which is, if you're not familiar with ocean freight logistics, that drayage agent is basically the trucker that retrieves a container from the port, and of course the consignee. Most people would be familiar with the shipper and the consignee in the event that you've ever sent or received a package. And customs, with the sake of origin and destination customs, you can consider that the same as if you were to fly to another country and clear customs, so does your shipment would also need to clear that same customs. And the freight carrier is, of course, the ocean vessel, the company that is going to be hauling the freight, or rather, I guess, transporting the freight, the containers themselves. And the destination customs broker agent is an individual that helps facilitate the customs clearance process at the destination. This specific smart contract, as mentioned, is obviously a ocean freight example. And what we see here is a series of multiple different states, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through 12, which is terminate. And the key takeaway here is that the smart contract is an if-then type program, which is going to be deployed into a blockchain ledger. And the smart contract is pre-designed and agreed upon amongst the participants of that network once the smart contract is deployed. And essentially, what we're looking at here is the actual workflow that the smart contract will help guide the business process through. So here, if we take a look at begin trade, we notice that the first action is for the shipper, right? We have this S for shipper right here. For the shipper to upload export customs documents and enter the shipment's information. Now, once that's done, the state changes, and realistically, somebody on the other end, in this specific case, this would be the origin customs agent would receive a notification. You can make that notification come to their email, whatever the case might be. And they have to now approve or take a look at the different documentation and approve or deny that shipment from being exported. So in the event that, they want to deny it, they'd simply reject the shipment and would move over to state 12. In the event that they needed any sort of amendment in order to help process that shipment, they could select amend. And then we, of course, return to the first state, begin trade, where we re-enter whatever information is required, amends the specific information, and again, the origin customs agent would be notified for their approval. Once it's approved, we move now into the third state, where the shipper is now in charge of producing a draft bill of lading. Now, the draft bill of lading, or a bill of lading in general, is a document that essentially states ownership of that specific container or the content inside any one specific container or shipment. So that's literally the rights and ownership to that shipment. So it's a very critical document, and there's a lot of fraudulent activity that could theoretically happen in the event somebody who had the original bill of lading or electronic bill of lading, it was intercepted and maybe forwarded or forged or whatever the case might be. That's a very precious document and worth whatever the shipment's worth. So with that in mind, the shipper will produce this draft bill of lading, and the freight carrier now has a notification waiting for them to essentially say, hey, please approve, or ask the shipper to make whatever amendments to the documentation so that we can, of course, approve it and move the process forward, so on and so forth. So in this specific case, the freight carrier will, of course, approve, and we go into this method of transferring the bill of lading, where now the shipper can now delegate, in this specific case, that the destination's customs broker should receive this bill of lading. And of course, here it says packing list, documentation, and selects the destination customs broker, which we'll get to in just a little bit. And you can just kind of see that we're moving this process through a series of different state changes. And the key takeaway here, not to get too detailed into the actual logistics and business process behind this, is that within just these 6 state changes, we went from a shipper to an origin customs agency to a freight carrier to a destinations customs broker. We just moved documentation through several different parties, and everything happened in real time, including notifications. And you'll see in the coming slide or the coming demo that you'll have access in understanding where this specific smart contract is at any one given point in time with respect to its given state, meaning where is the business process currently, who's in charge of the next piece. And of course, this is all very critical with respect to time sensitivity in business, and of course, having visibility into these business processes with secure communication and documentation transfer is a very serious and added benefit that blockchain technology is providing, all inclusive. And we'll get into some of the values later on in this presentation. But for the sake of moving things forward, let's jump into this demo so that we can begin showing you the functionality that Microsoft Azure provides with respect to their Azure Workbench. So what we're taking a look at here, okay, is exactly that, the Azure Workbench. And if I just back up a split second, you can see that we have a series of smart contracts that are deployed or that are available. We'll just call them applications. And you can think of the blockchain workbench as an admin tool, realistically, where you can have several different business processes happening internally. And just like any other Microsoft application, you're going to have, you know, your login credential. And of course, one of the major added benefits here is that you have the Azure Active Directory here, where you can begin assigning all those different personas that we just discovered and started speaking about, such as the shipper, the destinations customs broker, so on and so forth, within all of these different applications. So let's jump into the supply chain transportation demo here. So let's take you guys around, give you a little tour here. What are we looking at? We have the ability here to deploy a new contract. We can customize the overall UI. We have the ability to see all the different members and participants that can be added to this specific smart contract. And of course, for the sake of this demo, you can see here that I'm set up as the shipper, the origin customs agent, the freight carrier, the destinations customs agent, the drayage agent, and consignee. Let me just see here. Okay, I think we need to add just one more role. We're missing the destinations customs broker. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to do that. We go to add. We select the individual and we can go ahead and add the destinations customs broker. Just like that. Now, if we go back here, you'll see the destinations customs broker and the destination customs agent. So that's literally how we add a specific user role or persona to any one specific smart contract. All right, let's go ahead and launch this contract. Let's call this shipment, and we'll just put the date. Of course, for the sake of this demo, I'm going to select myself as the freight carrier so that we don't have to keep switching screens. In reality, this notification or this state change would go to another individual. So of course, I'll be the origin customs broker, and of course, the consignee. So I'm going to hit create, and you're going to see here that we're working on contract ID 34, and that it might take a couple minutes. In the background here, we've basically just deployed this specific smart contract with its assigned and pre-configured rules that we were just taking a look at in the previous slide to a Ethereum proof of authority ledger that's of course hosted in Azure. And I'll give you a little brief tour around here. So on the previous slide, we were discussing all the multiple different states, state 1 through 12, right, on the flow diagram. Here you can see right off the bat that in real time, we're in state 1, begin trade. Just like we showed on the previous diagram, this is going to follow the same exact workflow. Here you can see that it was created by, and my name, of course, the date, the contract ID, meaning the amount of contracts that have been deployed to this specific workbench ledger, and the contract address. You can specifically reference this specific contract address and its current state that you're in, and all of the different persona that are directly associated now with the contract at this point in time. You can see here that the drayage agent, destinations customs broker, and of course the destination customs agent have not yet been assigned, and that there's also specific metadata that we're still missing that pertain directly to this contract. On this side, we can see the activity. We can drill in and understand this is the current contract state, which action needs to be taken, by whom, the shipment description, and all of the different blockchain references as it pertains to time, block ID, the block number, block hash, address, and of course the transaction hash, which if you need definitions for some of the terminology, we'd be happy to provide that to you. In this demo, we're not going to get too technical with definitions here. So let's go ahead and let's take an action. This is what it looks like. So we're the shipper at this point in time, and we basically need to go and take action to contact the export, the origin customs agent, which is at this point from our shipper standpoint, the export clearance. So we'll say that the seller is Jason, the port of discharge, we'll say it's New York. We're not going to get too much into the financial end in this use case with respect to trade finance. This is simply just to demonstrate cross-functionality between multiple different businesses. Customs filing, in reality, we have a system, or actually a solution that assists with document attestation. For this specific demo, we're just going to put in a string text, and we'll just call this AES filing. Customs documentation, again, you could theoretically add or upload a document, and the document would of course have a specific hash. That's the document attestation, and you'd be able to recall it in a secure fashion. So customs document, we'll just call this for now just passport. So let's take action. You can see here that it's, again, writing to the ledger. And once this goes through, you'll see that the state change happens. There we go. And we can see here the metadata that has been added. So we now know that the seller is Jason. It's leaving out of New York, Chase Bank, AES filing, and the passport. These would be the documents that you'd be able to access given your permissions within this specific smart contract delegated to your specific persona. And again, here, you'll be able to see all of the information, including the from address and transaction hash pertaining to the last action that we took. Take action. Once again, this would be on the origin customs agent. And again, if you can recall, we can either amend, approve, or reject. In the event that we were to amend, it would go back to the original state. In the event that we reject, that would be the end of this contract. In the event that we approve, it would help move things forward. So obviously the origin customs agent would do their due diligence in checking the documentation and ensuring that this is now on record. And once it's approved, the shipper would of course receive notification to take its next steps. So what we're really seeing here is a business process that's happening in real time amongst multiple different business participants. And most importantly, the transactions themselves are immutable, meaning every transaction that we had just placed can't be changed. Now, of course, you can take the network down, but that would obviously defeat the purpose of building out a network. And that's a whole nother conversation. For the sake of time, I know it's just half past the hour. I just want to, just briefly go through maybe one more state change, and then we'll jump into some of the business value add that our company is really trying to demonstrate and portray to the world as this technology matures and as business gain traction in adopting this technology for the sake of their own institutions. So at this point in time, Origin Customs, has basically approved the shipment, and we have to begin uploading, certain documentation that will be due at some point in time. So again, this is all documentation that could be uploaded for the sake of this demo. We're just going to put in some string text here. So now we're basically sending over the draft bill of lading and whatever shipping documents might be relevant later on down the road in this contract over to the freight carrier, where now the freight carrier is of course going to be interested in ensuring that the documents are accurate, and in the event there's any specific amendments or any changes that need to be made, we can of course go ahead and do that. And if there isn't, then we basically say, hey, go right ahead. This is the upload of the original or the electronic or original bill of lading. And it's now, in the possession of the shipper, i.e. the owner of the actual cargo, for them to, of course, release to the appropriate authority on the consignee end, for them to, of course, provide destinations customs clearance for the release of that shipment, or for at least, hopefully no inspections happen, nothing like that, and it's a seamless process. So once again, we see this state change go through, and we have a series of metadata that's now been populated here. So we have our final bill of lading, right? We had our draft, here's our final, and once again, just proving out the reality here, we have several things. We have multiple different business participants who have insight to this specific business process in one central application, not a centralized app. It's actually decentralized, but the information itself is in one central location. The information that is being transacted is immutable, meaning that nobody can go and tamper with it. It can't be changed. Again, through multiple different business participants, business process happening in real time, notifications happening in real time, and the immutability of these transactions is really the core strength and the biggest, I guess, hype that really exists around blockchain. It eliminates the need to trust all of the different business participants that are involved in this specific smart contract, because we all know that this information can't be changed. With that in mind, I'd like to jump into a little bit of our presentation, just to make sure that we deliver exactly what we're promising here. Putting the cart before the horse. What does that mean? Why would we put the cart before the horse? Well, I want everybody to take a step back. We just looked and observed how a proof of concept is developed with respect to a business process and its wireframe. We watched Microsoft's Workbench run us through a specific smart contract, which is the series of these business processes and workflows, a structured workflow in real time. And in order to understand the value and to really see how businesses in the enterprise world is going to adopt this technology into the future, we have to shift perspective. So putting the cart before the horse is an immediate reminder to everybody here listening that we need to first understand business today to understand how we can shape the future. Putting the cart before the horse, for example, where roads where the network or the infrastructure of today's highways and road systems fully evolved before Ford Motor Car decided that they were going to be the first to come across the assembly line and start mass producing vehicles. Well, if we, didn't take a step back and say that you shouldn't put the cart before the horse, then maybe that production would have stopped and we wouldn't be where we are today. The fact remains that the infrastructure of emerging technologies, or the infrastructure of our society, wasn't developed in a day, but it was envisioned. So what is business today? What is cross-functionality in business today? What is this concept of collaboration? Many businesses have different initiatives with internal collaboration. Many businesses have, cross collaboration between different organizations. Let's first break down what cross functionality in business means today. And what we're looking at right now is the business value chain that Michael Porter specifically talks about. And we're going to break this down to more of a granular level just to help keep certain perspective. But in order to do that, we first need to understand the primary activities. This is the foundation layer to a business model. And I don't want to get too business 101-ish. I just want to make sure that we kind of align all on the same page moving forward throughout this presentation. So primary activities, we have inbound logistics, and logistics doesn't necessarily pertain to the ocean freight demo that we just went through. It could just be whatever sort of product or information data comes into a specific company. And then of course, production. What are we doing with that product? What are we doing with that data? And then of course, the outbound logistics. Where is that going to? Is it going to an end consumer? Is it going to another business? How do we propel the outbound logistics end, right? We have to of course support that initiative with some sort of marketing and sales, and then of course provide some service to back up your entire business model. So that's the foundation layer to our business, and to understand the functionality on the day-to-day level, we ask you right here to almost picture yourself, find yourself in this whole model, right? So these are our supporting activities. Procurement is going to, of course, assist in all of your primary activities in one way, shape, form, or another. Likewise, the production and development of new technology. Human resource management. We have to, of course, keep our business functioning, and we all know that the strength to every business is, of course, the manpower, the people that, of course, participate within any one organization, and of course the firm infrastructure, with respect to who's taking care of different administrative activities, so on and so forth. So really, ask yourself where you sit in the supporting activities here, and put the whole piece together. And now ask yourself, have you ever dealt with or been asked to collaborate with other individuals, maybe inside your own company, and for sure other individuals on projects maybe outside of your company, and of course different business processes? Well, that's this concept of cross collaboration or cross functionality. And when we talk about cross functionality here and how it functions across the different across the value chain, it's important to recognize a lot of the different benefits, and of course there's the trials and tribulations that exist inherently with any sort of collaboration. Which takes us into some of the benefits, right? Understanding that if you put a brand new team together, how is that going to create innovation? We'll talk a little bit about that. Likewise, how is that going to enhance business process efficiency? Likewise, how does putting somebody into a brand new situation, how does that affect their ability to either excel or not, with respect to them taking on potentially new sort of leadership roles and a brand new form of accountability that they may never have seen before? You got to keep in mind that when you start putting different individuals in different places with a brand new team, for example, if you're putting an accountant with somebody who's more on the development side of technology, you wind up realizing, let alone accountability, you wind up realizing that you're the subject matter expert, you're actually responsible for the creation of something, and you wind up collaborating with a brand new topic with a subject matter expert who might be on the accounting side and you on the IT development side, that'll give you a whole new perspective and a whole new mindset as to how something can be fixed. We recognize an immediate pain point, and we can now go ahead and start fixing these pain points. And this concept leads us to understand that, you know, we want to constantly work smarter and not harder. We want to create business process efficiency. So yes, we at the same time are looking to innovate, but at the same time, you know, we have these cross-collaborative teams or cross-functional teams to help drive business process efficiency. When we start, you know, talking about efficiency, we're really talking about the, you know, the amount of time that we spend in you know, our daily lives, or our daily work lives rather, in helping progress a specific business process, right? So we aim to reduce delays between workflow stages, as the team should be comprised of all the people required to get the job done. So that's the point of putting these teams together, or another benefit, I should say. New leadership roles and accountability, right? So we just established the fact that, you know, yes, we have business process efficiency because, you know, we have a team that's working hand in hand with each other now. Likewise, we established the fact that it's great that we have these new innovative ideas. More so, new leadership roles and accountability are a major supporting outcome and benefit of cross-functional teams. Have you ever been in a situation where you are now with a group of new people and you feel empowered by the fact that you are the subject matter expert in any one given area? Well, if you have had that experience, maybe you have seen yourself excel due to the fact that you have this ability to provide a certain information that nobody else on your team is able to provide, and you feel empowered by it, and ultimately you are now accountable for that end of your team's success. And again, that's a huge benefit that we're seeing from cross-functionality. So cross-functionality across organizations is of course a huge area of discussion that we today obviously recognize that there's you know, huge value in, but at the same time, major challenges. So what we're looking at here is company one, company two, the same business value chain that we just went through and dissected between primary and supporting activities. And how can these two companies now start collaborating? Well, first, let's start talking about some of the challenges that they wind up facing. Too much or too little communication, a lack of trust between individuals and companies, and of course, a technology disconnect. I'm sure we've all experienced this in some way, shape, or form. We're in this integration age, so for sure we have. It's too much or too little communication. What do we mean by that? Well, how much time do we spend in meetings every day? Do we spend too much time? Maybe. Do we spend too little time? Maybe. Well, that's a big area of discussion, and obviously a major area of opportunity that we can look to fix, right? If we have too much communication, we're spending too much time and not enough productivity. And if we have too little communication, maybe we don't have as much detail and can't produce the results that we need as a direct result. So fixing this would be critical in furthering the benefits of cross-functionality, especially between organizations, let alone internally. A lack of trust between individuals and companies. When we involve ourselves with different organizations, the one major fear that we all have is, what information are we allowed to give? What information are we not allowed to give? How can we trust the information that we give is not going to be tampered with, or vice versa? So this trust between different parts of an organization, even internally, is of course, you know, already an issue, but between different companies, even more so. So it makes sense to to start, let's say, with a small project that can generate a quick win and establish expectations. So that's essentially what we're going to start talking about and driving into here. Of course, the technology disconnect. We all know that there's different ERP systems, different means of communication. Where do we store different documentation? Where does different information go? Who owns it? Who hosts it? What cloud platform? So on and so forth. There's dozens of technological disconnects that we find even within our own siloed enterprise divisions, let alone, you know, across different enterprise organizations. So that's business today. We have some great benefits to the technology that we have in place today with respect to how we've evolved in providing this sort of cross functionality. But at the same time, there's some serious downfalls that we need to correct in order to pave the way and better business tomorrow. So cross collaboration solved. What do we really mean? Well, now we're going to kind of take you on a little tour as to how blockchain helps solve these problems immediately. We spoke about a couple of the values during our demo, but what we're really going to take a look deeper into now is how this is actually happening. Leverage blockchain to save time and money. We spoke about the concept of spending too much time in meetings or too little, right? Too much or too little communication. So what we're looking at here is we outlined this box. If you can recall on the Azure Blockchain Workbench, this box is showing you your current business process and state that the business is currently in between different organizations. Now, there's really no need to have a meeting about this, and we actually have all the information that we specifically need, all in one specific location. And that's pretty much the end of that conversation. I mean, there may be business processes that are happening off-chain, maybe internally, but with respect to two different businesses or maybe even two different parties within the same organization, understanding where a specific business process is, the status is fixed, it's present right here. Moving forward, how can we innovate new revenue streams, right? We want to solve this concept of a lack of trust between individuals and companies. We spoke about the concept of innovation and as one of the driving benefits to cross functionality between organizations or even internally. And here what we're taking a look at is this concept that we spoke about before of immutability of information. At this point in time, we've deployed this specific smart contract that you saw earlier, and the information, the transactional information, as we move through these different state changes of a specific smart contract can't be changed, which means that the smart contract that we put out there is a specific program that the participants all abide by, those specific business process rules as it pertains to that smart contract, which of course you can always deploy a new smart contract with new rules. But the driving factor is we now know that the information that's being transacted can't be changed and that it's not in any one specific individual's possession to actually make those changes. So we solved that concept of trust between, let's say, business, enterprise silos or between organizations. Aligning technology increases effectiveness of collaboration, right? So if we take a look, you can see here that, we obviously have a brief showing of, a specific repository. Essentially, you can kind of see where all information is being stored, so on and so forth within Azure. Likewise, on the left there, you can see that we have a depiction of a blockchain ledger and all the different technology stacks that may revolve around that specific ledger. Now, it's our job as a systems integrator, with a specific core focus, of course, blockchain implementations, but of course, systems integration, right? Every single business, not every single business is going to be different, but what we do understand is that, configurations even of the same ERP, even if two different businesses are using the same ERP, they may have different configurations, let alone the fact that we have different technologies and different ERP systems that different departments internally could be using that would be, of course, different. So what we see here is the ability to now leverage blockchain technology for real-time state changes, where we can see a business process in real time at any given point in time. We see the fact that we can now integrate any specific, ERP or any specific technology to help participate with that specific ledger. We now understand that the information that's being transacted can't be changed; it's immutable, and everything is happening in real time. There's some very core benefits that, yes, different technologies can do individually, right? We can get real-time reporting and real-time data without the use of a blockchain ledger, but at the same time, are we getting immutability? Maybe, maybe not. Can we get all of these core benefits all from one technology? And that's really the main driving hype around blockchain. We get all of these benefits and core values right away. Blockchain redefines the 20th century cross-functionality. So I guess that moves us into the 21st century. So what we're taking a look at here is literally a blockchain down the middle of the page, just obviously a depiction for the sake of putting some sort of graphical representation. And of course, four different businesses that are, of course, set up to participate all in the same ledger. What we see here is obviously different transactions that are happening back and forth, and different departments, either the supporting or primary activities of these different business value chains that are capable of recognizing real-time information, immutability, and of course understanding, let's say, even in the event there's maybe IoT or anything that, artificial intelligence, anything that may be involved, you have these records of I want to say sources of truth, or golden sources of truth, where data is being input. Hopefully it's the correct data, which is why IoT is, and artificial intelligence is going to play a very large role into the future, and why, our organization has paid a very specific attention to these emerging technologies, because those golden sources of truth and information sources are going to be critical to how we can further leverage blockchain into the future, especially with respect to automation. So shift your perspective. Enterprise blockchain delivers financial value. We can save time, which saves money. We can increase trust, which offers new revenue streams. And we can align technology, which of course increases efficiency. These three concepts are a fairly large wow factor. And as we all know, the hype of blockchain was indeed a hype, but as with every emerging technology, whenever in the past we've seen such a huge hype cycle, it's a population of people who first recognize the immediate benefits, followed by the end of that hype cycle, where now we have to take this technology and bring it to reality. So the next part of our discussion here is basically why. Why make this our reality? What are the benefits today? What are we trying to accomplish? Well, if you're a publicly traded company, and even if you're not a publicly traded company, your objective in business is to, of course, increase your market share and or to increase your profit margins. Hopefully both. Sometimes some businesses decide that, generating market share is more beneficial immediately, and therefore they reduce their profit margins in order to help penetrate that market, and vice versa. Maybe in the event that your business has a very unique business value proposition or product, then of course you can rely on a higher profit margin and maybe still capable of taking on additional market share. And obviously that's a balancing act that every entrepreneur and every sort of business leader constantly balances and juggles. So market share, and how does it relate to my business network? So just briefly, when business process efficiency and cost savings are offered to your end user, you can begin taking a specific market share. Meaning if you're going to reduce prices, or because you actually have an increased efficiency and you can provide those cost saving opportunities, you are already out competing your competitors. So by sharing those cost savings with the market, your competitors are forced to reduce their prices whether they can afford to or not. And this becomes a strategic way that we can begin developing market share. First mover advantage. How many networks will you want to join or develop? It's a great question. And it's something that it may be primitive simply because of where we are today with the current state that blockchain technology is in with respect to its maturity. But realistically, first mover advantage, how many networks will you want to join or develop, is today's question. But still, first mover advantage can directly correlate and refer to the fact that in the event that you're specifically going to take over a specific piece of a market and you have the ability to have the same profit margin based on percentage as you did before with the implementation of blockchain technology, you are now ahead of your competitors because you can reduce your prices and still maintain the same profit margin, forcing your competitors to reduce their prices to compete where their margins are obviously weakening. On the flip side, if we focus on driving the bottom line, we may not be interested in maybe offering those cost-saving benefits to the client, whereby we can immediately understand that maybe our objective here is not to take control of a specific market share, but to, of course, outcompete or increase the cash value of our business. Meaning, if my company and every other company around me is offering, a specific product at the same exact price, in the event that I implement blockchain technology and build out a specific network, well, what's happening is my costs are, of course, reduced. I might have better products and services as a direct result, which can of course add value to the consumer. Likewise, in the previous example, you can do the same thing and retain specific vendors that are now going to be more reliant on your specific, on your specific network and your business because of the increased efficiency and natural ability to now start producing more business and revenue. So in this specific case, what we're looking at is better products and or services will offer more value to the customer, which will of course increased value offers a competitive advantage and translates to increased sales revenue. Increased sales delivers a wider bottom line. So when we decide as a business to, of course, keep those profits internally, we're, of course, increasing our profit margins and outcompeting our competition. So first mover advantage, once again. The balancing act that we all play as entrepreneurs or leadership roles, executives, in maneuvering our company. What is our interest? Are we interested in dominating a specific market sector, or are we interested in increasing our profit margins? That's an inherent question that we would love to have this sort of discussion with you as to how we can assess your current business and potential for blockchain, where it fits, where we can increase efficiency, how we can further your company's market share and or profit margins with respect to new revenue streams in addition. So, with that in mind, this concludes our presentation. I know that's just at the top of the hour, and I just wanted to leave a minute or so for everybody to ask questions.